Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Tuesday evening, May 6, 2025. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video. I'd really appreciate it if you guys get this video to 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We all like the video and then the YouTube algorithm pushes the video out to more persons who are in the path of these tropical systems so that we can keep everyone safe, especially during the peak months of Atlantic hurricane season, that's August through to October. Share this video with your friends, your co-workers, your relatives, and even your church brethren, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Please ensure that you all utilize the progress bar that's located at the bottom of the video, as well as the timestamps that are located not only in the comment section, but the video description, so that you can skip to the points in the video that you want to see the most in order to save time, because we know that the videos over here with the Jamaica can be very long. Leave a comment down below letting me know whether that's been lacking you recently. Also, feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so we're going to be looking at the US Climate Prediction Center's Global Tropics Hazards Outlook for the time period from May 14 to May 20. And we can see that for that time period, we're going to be having some greens across the Caribbean, including Jamaica. That's the light shades that represents just a 50% chance of above average rainfall. And we can see the same valid for May 21 to May 27 across the Caribbean, even incorporated portions of the Eastern Pacific and the northern portion of South America in some of that rainfall. Either way, we know what the US Climate Prediction Center usually shows every week is not 100% set in stone, so we have to take this forecast with a grain of salt. And I hope that you note that the US Climate Prediction Center did not highlight any reds or red and white patterns that represents tropical cyclone formation probability. There's a lot of rumors going around that the GFS is showing this, models are showing that by mid-May to the latter part of May. We have to take these GFS forecasts a grain of salt because they are definitely subject to change. I have a lot of people messaging me asking me if there's a hurricane coming around mid to the latter part of May. We have to stay tuned and we have to pay close attention to what the hurricane center show, especially if they're not saying anything, because they're not going past the 7-day time frame. That's smart, because they know that whatever comes after the 7-day time frame is not 100% set in stone, which is why we have to stay updated to see what the models are showing. And if the time gets closer and the models are still showing the same thing, then we know that the chances are higher for that to actually take place. But we're going to be looking at what the next 7 days have in store for us according to the latest Euro and GFS supercomputer model runs that came out today. So keep your eyes focused on the timestamp right here at the top as we go to the next one, John 68 hours. Keep your eyes focused on Jamaica right here as we look for all of this that we see on the key on the right. That's the reds, the oranges, the yellows, and the greens that represents inches of rainfall. So let's see what's going to be taking place. As we head into Wednesday morning, we see not much of anything being experienced across the island. But Wednesday afternoon, we definitely see that rainfall across eastern, central, western parishes on the year. What does the GFS show for the same time period? Not really much of anything, maybe some isolated showers across the far eastern end. Then on Wednesday afternoon, we see that rainfall across eastern, central, western parishes again. What do we see on Thursday morning? On Thursday morning, I'm really seeing much of anything on the Euro. On Thursday afternoon, not seeing much of anything either. Friday morning, however, we see some rainfall to our southeast. What does Friday afternoon show? We see rainfall across the eastern end and the southern end. What does the GFS show for Thursday and Friday? On Thursday morning, rainfall to our southwest, rainfall to our southeast. Thursday afternoon, just like what the Euro was showing, not much of anything for Thursday afternoon. But on Friday morning, look at that rainfall across the far eastern end. And on Friday afternoon, maybe some isolated showers across the northwestern end and the eastern end. Very interesting. What do we see on Saturday morning? On Saturday morning, we see rain to our west, rain to our south. On Saturday afternoon, we see rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does Sunday show as well? On Sunday morning, rainfall across the east, rainfall to our west. On Sunday afternoon, we see rainfall across central and western parishes. What does the GFS show for Saturday and Sunday? On Saturday morning, we see rainfall to our west, to our east, to our south on the GFS. And then on Saturday afternoon, we see a rainfall more so across the northern and western ends. That's what Sunday morning is showing us. On Sunday morning, rainfall to our far eastern end. Then on Sunday afternoon, we see a rainfall across the northwest. What does a Monday morning show? On Monday morning on the Euro, not really much of anything. West represents little to no rainfall at all. Then on Monday afternoon, we see that green shade that represents some rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. And we're going to be stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours. So this is valid for Tuesday, May 13, and we don't see much of anything across Jamaica. We see an abundance of rainfall across the eastern US down into pushing the Florida and the eastern Gulf though. What does the GFS show for the same time period? On Monday morning, rainfall to our west, rainfall across the western end and the eastern end. What does the afternoon show? Rainfall across the southwest. And then at the end of the 168 hours, we don't see much of anything across Jamaica, just some isolated showers across the far east. It's going to be very interesting to see how all of this plays out, and I'll definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs. But regarding Jamaica's total accumulated precipitation forecast month over the next 7 days, you can clearly see the dark reds into the purples and the pinks that represents all of what we see here on the key on the right. That's the 2 all the way up to the 5 inches of rainfall range. Definitely across the portion of Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Eastern Nicaragua, Eastern Honduras. We also see some of that across the Yucatan, Guatemala, even portion of northwestern Honduras, maybe spilling into section of Belize. And we also see a lot of that across the waters to the northeast of the Caribbean, spilling into sections of Antigua and Barbuda, Guadeloupe, Dominica as well. And if we take a look at the Euro model, we're going to be seeing that we have some consensus regarding this rainfall. I know that this rainfall could definitely trigger somewhat of isolated flash flooding for sure. But regarding the greens into the yellows and the oranges and the rest that represents anywhere from 0.1 of an inch of rainfall close to an inch of rainfall, that's definitely going to be experienced across areas such as the ABC Islands, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, St. Lucia, Martinique, Dominica, sections of Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis, Montserrat, St. Martin, US and British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Haiti, Dominican Republic, southeastern Cuba, the southern Bahamas, sections of the Gulf, the Yucatan, sections of El Salvador, much of Nicaragua and Honduras. And we can clearly see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in agreement with this 7-day forecast. And we're definitely going to be staying here and keeping you all updated with exactly what occurs. But regarding Jamaica's total accumulated precipitation forecast over the next 7 days, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are adamant that from now all the way up until Tuesday, May 13, there's going to be rainfall across the eastern end to the western end of the island. The most rainfall according to this latest Euro is across the far eastern end where the yellows are located, up to 36 millimeters of rainfall expected. The GFS going all the way up to at least 34 millimeters of rainfall, especially across the northeast, eastern Portland right there. And whatever happens, I'll definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs on our other social media platforms, so stay tuned. Taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening, we can see a ridge of high pressure right here that we know is responsible for sending all of the easterly trade winds across the main development region into the Caribbean. Broken orange lines associated with a trough affecting the eastern Caribbean. Broken orange lines and an area of low pressure right here associated with another trough of low pressure to the north of the US and British Virgin Islands. We see a frontal system across the southeastern US, another frontal system extending from northern portion of North Atlantic all the way down to the north of the main development region. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, we can make out all of the entities that we just mentioned. The clouds associated with the frontal system currently affecting portions of the southeastern US. The clouds associated with that trough of low pressure spinning away right here to the north of the US and British Virgin Islands. The clouds associated with that trough affecting a portion of the eastern Caribbean as we speak. The clouds associated with that other frontal system extending right here to the north of the main development region. And we can also make out the low to mid-level flow of the clouds being steered from east to west, all courtesy of the ridge of high pressure to the north. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean weather later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Tuesday, May 6, 2025. It was stated that rainfall would have been in the forecast of parts of eastern Jamaica on Tuesday morning, also affecting sections of some southern and western parishes during Tuesday afternoon. You know, eastern Jamaica, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey, like Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew. Western Jamaica, you know, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. While southern Jamaica, you know, we're talking about Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Catherine, Kingston, St. Andrew, and St. Thomas. And what ended up happening? At around 4:40 a.m., the Cuban Doppler radar imagery was posted right here on our Twitter page with the Jamaica, as well as on our Instagram page with the .Jamaica, on our TikTok page with the Jamaica, and on our Facebook page with the Jamaica 876. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there as we make posts throughout the day that you can't afford to miss. So we can definitely see the rainfall that was taking place. We see the greens, we see the yellows that represent moderate to heavy rainfall, moderado in the green, fuerte in the yellows, stronger heavy rainfall. And we can see it especially across sections of Portland, St. Mirror for sure this morning. We also see a lot of rain bands to our south, to our north. Some of this activity might have even affected sections of St. Thomas for sure. Then at around 1:55 p.m., the infrared close-up satellite images, imagery was posted, and it highlighted the clouds, bringing some overcast skies, if not some isolated thunder showers or scattered thunder showers, to sections of mainly some southern and western parishes. Definitely affected section of St. Andrew First, section of St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, and even section of Westmoreland and Hanover. Even up to the late evening hours, we're still getting some isolated thunder showers. And we know the sparkling white dots right here represent lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes. And we can make all those upper level cumulonimbus clouds being sheared off towards the southeast by that upper level wind shear, just like what we stated would have happened. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before we lost sunlight, we can make all that low level flow, then the clouds built up, and then when they built up, upper level winds blew them back off towards the southwest. And even while we're losing the sunlight, we still saw that we're getting in some amount of rainfall across section of Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Clarendon right here, even section of southern Trelawney and northern Manchester right there when we're losing the sunlight for sure. And if we take a look at the infrared close-up satellite images of Jamaica, we can definitely see that convection that took place. Look at the blues into the greens, the yellows, oranges, and reds, all of those upper level cumulonimbus clouds being sheared off towards the southeast by that upper level wind shear. And the sparkling white dots represent lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes, across section of Manchester, St. Elizabeth, lots of thunderstorm activity for sure today. Section of Trelawney, section of St. Catherine, section of St. Andrew, even getting some of the activity as well. And if we take a look at some of the live cameras here from See Jamaica's YouTube channel, this was at around 6:10 p.m. this evening in the halfway tree era. They definitely got a nice little downpour. We can see people definitely walking with their umbrella, people in their vehicles going about their business, windshield wipers definitely on. Halfway tree definitely getting a nice little soaking, maybe just some light to moderate rainfall, nothing too significant, but I'm pretty sure that the people who reside in those areas are grateful for the rainfall to cool down the temperatures for sure. And let's see. Yeah, I'd like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to see more live streams like this, just visit See Jamaica on YouTube. They have these live streams for your viewing pleasure, and they're planning on increasing the amount of cameras that they have in and around the island. So subscribe today so that you don't miss out. Even the Bagwa Gorge camera, the live camera showing Flat Bridge in St. Catherine at around 4:07 p.m. We definitely had a moderate to heavy downpour. The water was definitely green. Real Cobra definitely green at first, and then by this hour, definitely murky for sure. They definitely got some decent rainfall at around 4:07 p.m. in that part of St. Catherine today. And if we take a look at some of the comments that came in here from some of our subscribers, we have Youth Silvera 1179 stating good morning. Some rain just starting West Portland. Thanks for confirming that rainfall that we saw on the Doppler radar for West Portland and St. Mary. And then we have Donna Richards stating raining here in South Manchester. Active 4081 overcast here in South Clarendon, Weather Jamaica. MTNT stating I can see the rain from sea here. Manchester not looking good. We also have on our Instagram page his_mommy_ stating early morning St. Mary rain. Thanks for confirming that rainfall that we saw on the Doppler radar. Jevan Panton stating Spanish Town sunny. Then finally we had Camille Foster 924 stating St. Elizabeth lightning and thunder with hail. Hail really now. I hope that you got some footage for us. We also have Queen_Statch FX_billionaire stating Manchester rain. Thank you all for confirming what the weather is like in your area for today. Alright, so we're going to be looking at what's taking place right now. We're going to be reloading the very latest still image from the Weather Nerds website. And the latest still image is showing. Is it showing the latest? Alright, so I think if we reload it one more time, it should be showing us the 7:15 p.m. So right now it's showing us the 7:05 imagery. So I think the 7:15 imagery is supposed to be coming out shortly. Let's just give it a second. But as of right now, the 7:05 imagery was just showing a patch of clouds right here to the southeast of St. Catherine. We saw some isolated pockets of clouds across northern Manchester, maybe southern Trelawney. Let us see what's happening right now. 15 minutes past the hour now. Alright, here we go. So we still have those clouds right here to the southeast of St. Catherine. Just some pockets of clouds across northern Manchester, southern Trelawney right there as of 7:15 p.m. and this just came out 7 minutes ago. Considering that it's 7:22 p.m. right now. Unfortunately, we don't have the latest Cuban Doppler radar imagery to match the infrared satellite image with, because the Cuban Doppler radar seemed to have glitched out at around 9:40 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It was actually 8:40 a.m. Jamaica time at that time. The rainfall was still affecting portion of the north coast, if not out to sea, and we saw some rain bands right here to the southwest of St. Elizabeth as well. And if we take a look at the Guantanamo Bay Cuban naval radar imagery, not really seeing much of anything across southeastern Cuba at this time. We see some isolated shores right here across the western portion of southeastern Cuba, across the northwestern portions of the western peninsula of Haiti. Not really seeing much of anything across northeastern Jamaica at all. Taking a look at the Cayman radar, not seeing much of anything across the Cayman Islands or western Jamaica, but we do see some isolated shores across the far southern end of central Cuba. And just as we stated, the water definitely a bit murky. Rio Cobra definitely for sure to signal that they definitely got some decent rainfall this afternoon. There we have it. Definitely got some decent rainfall for sure. Well, it looks like it's been murky all along. So as usual, as of right now, things fear rainfall definitely tapered off by now. Can see people going about their business at this time. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see that we have 25 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 25 degrees Celsius in Kingston, and by about 4 a.m. on Wednesday, temperature should dip down to about 24 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 23 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS issuing 18Z on Wednesday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Wednesday, and we can see Jamaica right here on the eastern side and the grays on the western side in the slight yellows. You know the grays represents average temperatures, the yellows represent slightly above average temperatures. So if we take a look at this average temperature for the month of May in Jamaica, you know that the average temperature is around 89 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's converted to degrees Celsius that we use here in Jamaica, that's around 31.6 degrees Celsius. So it should be receiving 31.6 degrees Celsius around the eastern half of the island and 32.6 degrees Celsius on the western half of the island. And we have some maintenance outage advisories here to highlight from my JPS online Twitter page. We know that we have to highlight these because we know that when we're power outages somewhere across the island, it can definitely make the heat feel even worse because we don't have our fan or our AC to cool us down. So if you live or work in these areas, or if you have friends or relatives who live or work in these areas, please let them know that a power outage is coming their way on Wednesday, May 7, 2025. We're talking about Jane Ash Corner in the parish of St. Thomas from 9:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're also referring to Watson Town and Dumfries in the parish of Trelawney from 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And we have some tips right here to beat the heat as usual. It states here, dress down, wear lightweight clothing and use sunscreen. Check on others, including children, elderly people with medical conditions and pets. Be cool, stay indoors and make use of fans and air conditioners. Avoid alcohol and caffeine as they can make dehydration worse. Limit non-essential strenuous activity during the hottest part of the day. And I cannot stress enough the importance of staying hydrated throughout the day. Even if you're not thirsty, drink lots of water. And put away those sugar drinks and drink water instead. Taking a look at the dry air map. We know that the dry air is represented by what we see here on the key on the bottom. That's the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those reds. We can see an abundance of dry air across the western Caribbean, the Gulf, the southwestern Atlantic, the Bahamas, and another portion of the North Atlantic. We know the dry air is responsible for keeping the atmosphere stable, making it harder for us to get rain or storms this time of year. But we see an abundance of yellows, and we see an abundance of blues. They represent the low end of the scale in terms of dry air, as well as the moist air. A lot of moist air across the basin, Eastern Pacific, the main development regions, intertropical convergence zone, eastern to the southwestern Caribbean, lots of moist air. So it would make sense that we get more rainfall as the month progresses. But regarding the Saharan dust forecast, 18 UTC on Wednesday is actually 1 p.m. and we can see the browns represent Saharan dust and trailing across the main development region into portion of the eastern Caribbean. But it's not that intense of a plume. It's more so anywhere from a 1 all the way up to at least a 25 in terms of the intensity. Nothing too significant. We're glad that we're not seeing that vigorous plume, the darker shades of browns representing anywhere from 25 all the way up to 1,000. That means very hazy skies, not to mention trigger somewhat of respiratory illnesses in some persons. So we're glad that also over here in the Greater Antilles, Jamaica, we're all in the clear for 1 p.m. on a Wednesday. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, still seeing those light shades of blues to darker shades of blues extending from the Gulf, the Bahamas into the Caribbean, representing anywhere from 0.5 for meter wave height to 1.5 meter wave height. And that's because of the winds that are expected. We see more bluish shades, dull greens coming in from the east for the most part, as we can see here, across the Caribbean, curving northward into the northwestern Caribbean and the Gulf. Some of a southeasterly flow over there. And if we take a look back at the wave forecast regarding Jamaica's waves tomorrow, waves on the north coast up to at least 1.2 of a meter wave height on the north coast, south coast 0.4 of a meter wave height right here, south of St. Thomas 0.9 of a meter wave height, south of Westmoreland 0.4 of a meter wave height. And that's because of the winds that are expected. We see the dominant wind should be coming in more so from the east, northeast, if not the northeast, and more from easterly flow on the southern side of the island. And look at where the air is going to be piling up, mainly across sections of some, let's say, central and western parishes, more so southern parishes too. But regarding the winds on the north coast tomorrow, averaging 15 knots right here, maybe 16 knots right here to the north of Hanover. South coast 12 knots from the east, and the upper level winds I'm sure still coming in from the northwest. So if we get more convection tomorrow, those upper level clouds are going to be sheared off towards the southeast by that upper level wind shear. And regarding the actual rainfall forecast maps now, this map from the Euro and this map from the GFS are both valid for 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's actually 8 a.m. Jamaica time. And what do both maps have in common? We see the blues represent rainfall extending anywhere from St. and eastward. Sections of St. Mary's, sections of Portland, sections of St. Thomas for sure shaded in those. So definitely some morning rainfall across the northeast, maybe even far eastern St. Thomas. And then by Wednesday afternoon, look at what both maps are showing. The blues represent rainfall across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes. And it looks like the brunt of it could be across sections of some southern parishes. That's where we see the darkest blues. So maybe sections of southwestern Portland, western or for northwestern St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrews, southern St. Mary, sections of southern St. Anne, sections of St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, southern Trelawney, southern St. James, Hanover, Westmoreland getting in on some of that. Did I say St. Elizabeth as yet? Yep, there's definitely going to be some amount of afternoon rainfall, for sure, for those parishes. The Euro and the GFS models adamant about the rainfall totals. Euro going all the way up to 0.7 of an inch of rainfall. GFS going only up to 0.46 of an inch of rainfall. And whatever happens, we'll definitely take it because we're in the month of May. And in May in Kingston, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the top, we usually see close to 140 millimeters of rainfall. In May in Montego Bay, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the bottom, we usually see close to 6 inches of rainfall. And I'd like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to find out what your specific parish usually receives in terms of rainfall for the month of May or for the entire year, you can visit weatherandclimate.com, and that website to show you that information. And you can use this nice graphic right here that converts rainfall from inches to millimeters. You know that 1 inch of rainfall is about the same as 25 millimeters of rainfall, so you can do the math yourself. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we have some clouds right here spinning away associated with that trough of low pressure affecting the waters today. Let's say southeast of Bermuda. We can also see some rainfall right here across the waters of the northeastern Caribbean associated with that trough. Section of Hispaniola, southeastern Cuba, Jamaica, watching on somewhat of rainfall today. And if you take a look at the Doppler radar imagery right now of the northeastern Caribbean, it's what's happening near Puerto Rico as we speak. Alright, so right now near Puerto Rico, see some isolated shores across the far eastern end, southwestern end. We also see some moderate to heavy rainfall to the east of Guadeloupe, Antigua and Barbuda, some hit or miss shores in and around there as well. And if we load these Doppler radar images from earlier today at around 1:40 p.m. we can see that sections of the eastern section of the Dominican Republic got some rainfall. Sections of Puerto Rico got some rainfall as well. More so the central to the western ends. Section of the British Virgin Islands, St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda, Guadeloupe got some rainfall as well. And if we take a look at the Barbados radar, not really seeing much of anything across Barbados right now. But if we zoom out, we can definitely make out that rainfall to the east of Guadeloupe, some isolated shores to the east of Dominica, Martinique, and St. Lucia getting some isolated shores as we speak. And regarding the weather Doppler radar images, we can make out that rainfall across sections of Florida, rainfall across section of Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname as well. And regarding where the brunt of the rainfall is expected within the next 24 hours, both maps right here from the year and the GFS are adamant that the most rainfall, especially in the reds, dark reds, and the slight purples, should be across sections of northern South America, Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, and Central America, eastern Nicaragua, section of southern Guatemala, El Salvador, southern portions of Honduras, section of Jamaica, southeastern Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, the US Virgin Islands, St. Martin, St. Kitts and Nevis, Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, Montserrat, Guadeloupe, Dominica getting some of that rainfall too. Maybe even spilling into sections of Martinique, sections of St. Lucia, St. Vincent getting some of the action as well. And even sections of Trinidad and Tobago getting some isolated shores too. And we can clearly see some rainfall in store for section of Guyana, Suriname and French Guiana as well. I know that when both maps from the year and the GFS are in consensus like this, the chances are higher for it to actually happen. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.